Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, but imagination encircles the world. That's a pretty interesting quote by Albert Einstein if you really think about it, because knowledge is only as strong as the imagination and the dream behind it. And most knowledge, the boundaries of it is pushed by people that imagine something more, you know? The knowledge a long time ago that said the world was flat, or the knowledge of the way the solar system is laid out, or is there galaxies beyond this, or that we could actually ever go to the moon. Those things weren't real until they were pushed by the boundaries of creative people. All of us which have creativity in us, some of us don't use it, was pushed by imagination. And so today's Rob Review is really about that quote. I was sent that by a friend of mine, a friend of Brittany's. She sent it to Brittany, saying it reminded her of me, which I think is a pretty awesome compliment, because imagination is the power that changes the world. It's not just something that we have as a kid, and it's unfortunate that as we get educated in life, a lot of times people let education overpower the imagination and dull it some, because everything, including the America we have here today, was formed around dreams and imagination, that somebody could ever be living in a government built for the people, by the people, and not by a king. And so in today's Rob Review, I want to talk about the transitioning of a dream and the idea of letting your life be about mastery, which we talked about last week, to how to turn that dream into a reality through mastery and through changing that imagination into actionable steps that you can then daily work on until the dream becomes a reality. So with that, let's dive into today's Rob Review. So what is the real purpose of this? How does this benefit your life? Well, most of us have dreams, but some of us act on them, and some of us just think that they're fun to utilize, the daydreams, the euphoria we get from them. And I'm going to tie this all back into building wealth, because that's what we talk about a lot on the Rob Review. But when you have a dream like that, I believe that just like in my life I have seen, the purpose of those dreams is to key you in on something that you could be doing that could fulfill your life and make the world into something. Not necessarily a better place, but just into a different place. It could be growth for your life, for other people's lives. It could impact other people's lives, such as those of you watching on TV like this station that we're in right now, the creation of which was a dream by Herb, right? Who has a sister who actually sent us that quote, right? And so Herb's sister understands the power of a dream because her entire family benefits from the dreams of her father, and then Herb stepped outside of that business and decided he was going to start a television station, which was a total 180, and just seemed like so outside the norm of something that somebody should or could think they could do. But because he dreamt it and actually turned it into something and took actionable daily steps to make it happen, You see somebody like me here before you today who literally could say that most of what I have in my life today is a fringe benefit of what Herb created. Not to say I haven't put in my own work, but my building blocks upon his dream only happened because of the foundation that he laid, right? That foundation which allowed me to meet my wife. That foundation which allowed me to build a life. That foundation which allowed me to then do this show and impact you. So that dream that you have, it's kind of important that you at least try to answer it. And the fact that it may seem insurmountable is what we're talking about today. You have to cut it down to size. And I don't mean take your dream and shrink it. I mean think about really what it takes to make it happen. Because usually there's a few key things that you have to take into control and master to make your dream a reality. Such as a financial dream. If you want to become wealthy, what do you have to do? Well, you can't be a person that builds wealth without getting rid of your debt. At least personal debt. And you can't be a person that builds wealth without having an understanding of your financial matters and a grip on that. And so really budgeting needs to be mastered. Mastering the art of turning your money into more money. So investing of some shape or form or fashion, whether it's what avenue you go down doesn't matter. That's your choice. I would pick something that takes advantage of skills you already have, such as if you're, I'm in the stock market because I enjoy risk. I have a high risk tolerance. I don't gamble, but I know how to delineate probabilities in my mind. And some people have seen me fail miserably at advanced math, but yet those charts that I read, I've taught myself through daily practice of little pieces of how you read charts to make it so that I can probably predict where they're going with what I like to think is a 60 to 70% certainty at this point. That's no small feat. And I've worked really hard at doing that. And I didn't do that overnight. And I didn't do that by trying to master the freaking stock market. I did that by finding somebody who could teach me how to break down the big pieces into small chunks and prioritize them. That's what leadership is about. That's a quote that I learned a long time ago that stuck with me. Leadership is about the prioritizing, the breaking down of big chunks into small pieces and prioritizing which piece you need to do first. So the mastery of the things that you need to master in order to obtain your dream is only done really by breaking them into small pieces, such as you want to become wealthy. Well, you got to learn how to invest. You got to learn how to manage your current financial state and learn how to make yourself be okay with the mental understanding of having more. And then I think it's really important that you make yourself into a person who daily grinds on the task of becoming a better investor or a better business builder or a better, well, really there's only two. Because once you understand the basics of your personal finance and how to break down those pieces so that you are saving some to put into some kind of a wealth account, and you're giving away some because you got to sow before you can reap, and then you're only spending but so much of your percentage on living, and you're taking out of care of those debts, and then once you take care of those debts, you take that money and you directly put it back into wealth building. Once you've mastered that, it's one piece out of the way, and then you can focus more on the investing side. Maybe you don't want to learn how to invest. Well, then you've got to master the art of picking the right people for your team. So becoming wealthy is really simple once you break it down into small chunks and prioritizing, okay, Every day I've got to work at this one piece, and I've got to work it at least 2 or 3 hours a day. I've got to find time to learn more, to read more. If you want to become an investor, it's probably important that you learn how to invest in a thing, real estate, stocks, bonds, gold. And you do that by reading about them, learning how to understand the vehicle itself. And you don't do that once, you do that daily for the rest of your life. And so, step outside of your comfort zone and think about the learning from breaking down the fundamentals and prioritizing them. Don't worry about the 10,000 hour rule. Who's to say that through the power of the 10,000 hour rule, you master something? Because there's no scientific proof to that. So maybe it's more important to, instead of just think about, well, I've got to do 2 hours a day for 5,000 days, and then I'll become a master, which is 13 or 14 years. I've talked about before on the Rob Review, most successes happen in that 10-year mark of grinding on a craft when they really, really see a giant leap forward in the compounding effect of what they've been working on. I don't know that the 10,000 hour rule is all that accurate, but I know that it doesn't matter whether it's accurate or not if you take it from the path of, I'm going to work on these small pieces for the rest of my life until I figure out that I have enough of an understanding of one that I can do it without thinking subconsciously, and then I'll move on to adding another piece in there that wasn't in there before. And so you just take it pieces at a time until at some point you have a whole pie right there that subconsciously you have mastered. And you may die before you get there, or you may get there faster than somebody else. So the second piece is, don't compare yourself to other people. Because I've done it, and when I do it, I always fail. I always end up doing something stupid, like getting angry over something that really doesn't matter, because somebody has beat me to the punch of something that they weren't even going after, or I wasn't going after in the first place. Like the idea that if somebody gets a benefit in their life that I don't have yet, that it makes me a lesser person, and that's not true. Because as long as I keep my eyes on myself, I'll always feel like I'm progressing if daily actions are taken to progress. And then you can take a time out every single month and look back and see, and actually have tracked and written down your progress so you can see, look, last month I was here. This month I'm here. I'm 3 or 4 percentage points ahead of where I was. Go me. And then you build that self-confidence, which is damn sure more important than making yourself feel bad because your neighbor has more. I'm just telling you from experience that the path of comparing yourself and competitively chasing after what somebody else has is just a path that gets you nowhere. And so then you understand that comparing yourself is not worth it, so you make a planned push to practice daily, and understand that practice doesn't make perfect, because perfect is an illusion. So what's more important is preparedness, which happens by daily practice to prepare yourself to the point that, like SEAL teams, when they go in to take something into action, to put a plan to work, they're going in to do something. 6 months ago, they started planning, and they did it to the point where everybody on the team knows what they're doing on a not just conscious but subconscious level, because when they're under fire, their mind can lose track if it's not trained. And training kicks in because the subconscious mind kicks in, and they're able to, under threat of death, handle and assess and objectively take down whatever target they got to handle. And so you got to think about your life like that too. Not just practice to practice, but practice so that when you're in the arena, such as my mentor says, you're able to stay objective and able to keep your head so that you can move forward. All right, so let me explain that a little bit better. It's the idea that you stay the calmest person in the room, you always have the probability of winning on your side. And in order to stay the calmest person in the room, you must be the most prepared person in the room. That's why successful people prepare for the good, the bad, and the ugly of life. It's the idea that you can make better choices and more tolerant risk choices if you know that as a prepared person you have finances waiting in the wings to take care of what you need to take care of if you lose your principal. That kind of stuff. So with that, I want to leave y'all with some time to think about this, and then we'll step into another video where we actually walk through the action steps of putting this into play in your life, taking the mastery of something and breaking it down into smaller pieces and prioritizing them. We'll do an action video next, and I'll see y'all on the next Rob Review. Until then, remember, if you really do benefit from this, share this with somebody, because you sharing this with somebody the next 24 hours that can benefit from this, well, you get the benefit of being that person that is now sharing the knowledge. And that shared knowledge actually, truly does come back to impact you positively in your life, I promise.